All right, hello everyone. I'll make that 4 o'clock, and welcome to our third webinar, which is regarding which property types are ideal for the buy-to-let market and why. I'm Mark Howell, Group Lettings Manager for Michael Jones and Company, and we're just going to touch upon a few different points today. It's not necessarily going to be what you expect. It's actually going to be more of an analytical look at what the market is telling us is an ideal property and the right buy-to-let investment at the moment. So we're going to look at the data behind the market, what the market's doing, what people are searching for, and the type of property they're looking for. So it's going to give you a really good idea as to the ideal buy-to-let if you are indeed looking. So welcome to everyone today, whether you're a new landlord, existing landlord looking to increase their portfolio, or someone just really looking to start the process. We've tried to adapt this to make it suitable for everyone. Obviously, if there's any questions throughout this process, please start to put your questions on the Q&A for later on, and I will answer them. I've got a few questions that have come in prior to this as well from the last webinar and other clients of ours that can't make it today. So we've got a few things to go through as well, and I'll run you through what we're going to talk about today. So what's to come? So we're going to look at the growth of the market since COVID-19. So we're just going to touch a little bit about the market itself. So the growth of the market and what we're finding from the applicants, the demand, and how that's swung since lockdown. We're going to look at our local area statistics. So, we're Worthing and the surrounding areas are close to our heart. So we're going to share some local area statistics today around the Worthing and surrounding areas, which is really interesting, based again on demand levels from the marketplace. We're going to have a little look into the growth of the virtual world. So if any of you are tuned into a couple of webinars ago, I ran a little talk about the growth of the virtual world. It's just continuing to grow, it's continuing to boom. So we're just going to talk a little bit about that again. Obviously, real careful considerations when looking at wherever you are in the UK, looking at the type of agent you're using, the type of marketing that you're embarking on with your buy-to-let investment to get you the best return, and how to get your property to stand out online, which will tie in with the right sort of properties to buy at the moment and where the demand's coming from. So it'll really be a tangible look at data and what the market's saying to us, both UK-wide and locally, as to what the best buy-to-let investments are. So we'll have a look at that. And then we'll have a live Q&A at the end, just running through any questions you have. I'll try and answer as many as possible. So let's firstly look at the growth of the market since COVID-19 lockdown. So you can see this clear graph. We got this from Google Trends. So this is, this is Google data based on any search terms relating to lettings, residential lettings. This could be property to let, house to rent, and anything that's similar on a property letting specific perspective. And this data is from January 2020 to August 2020. And you can see there the clear dip in the demand and clear dip in the search terms that came forward when lockdown first hit, and then the subsequent increase in those search terms since. So culminating in a real spike. The peak of the market this year has been in June, around kind of mid to late June, as you can see from that graph. And actually what's happened since lockdown, the resurgence in the market, June, July and August have been our three busiest consecutive months over the last 12 months. Now, bearing in mind that that period of time, although letting stays fairly consistent, is traditionally a little bit of a quieter time of year. And usually the first quarter of the year outperforms that period. But actually what we've seen here is this quarter now that we've come out the back of and moving forward is remaining strong. And actually the trend is continuing. You can see that it's continuing to be strong. And we're seeing that, front line, we're still hitting record numbers every week. There's still loads of demand coming forwards. It doesn't seem to be stopping. This is the UK average rent in the market is up by 1.4%, which seems like quite a nominal growth. When you look at the sort of growth numbers of demand, etc. This is based on HomeLet data. It excludes London. The reason that London's excluded is, to be honest, London's having a complete opposite scenario at the moment. So they're actually finding a drop in rents over in London at the moment for reasons we'll talk about later. The medium monthly private rental price in Worthing, which is obviously close to our heart here at Michael Jones, that shows you there the median figures. So these are the mid-range figures. So 550 for a studio, 695 for a one-bedroom, 875 for a two-bedroom, 1,100 for a three-bedroom, and then 1,363 average for a four-bedroom or more. Now, you may be sitting there thinking, God, that's much lower than I get for my property. This is just the midpoint. And obviously, with any midpoint, there's properties that are considerably more expensive, and there's some that are slightly cheaper. And so that's the way the market works. And Worthing has a variety, as with lots of big towns and areas, has a real variety of property. But that's the mid-range. What we have found quite interesting, which is not on this graph, but something I'll share with you, is that the income, or the average income of applicants now in the Worthing location is actually outperforming the UK in terms of new applicants coming forward for property. So the average income for an applicant across the UK is £24,000, and we've found from our own data, and bear in mind, our market position in this area is 27,000 for an average income for an incoming tenant. So quite interesting. I think a lot of that's coming from other parts of the UK where people are relocating from places like London and Brighton, etc., with typically higher average incomes. So why is the market growing? Well, there's this once in a lifetime shift of where people want to live. So off the back of COVID, I spoke about this a couple of webinars ago. Off the back of COVID, people made decisions that they were changing where they wanted to live for various reasons. They wanted to be near green open space, or they wanted to be near the sea, or just having that feeling of space and less population, which is real serious considerations now for people, as I think we're all resigned to the fact that coronavirus isn't going anywhere for a while. So people are making longer term decisions based on areas they want to live in, which are not necessarily areas where they were considering before. But this is happening en masse. So as opposed to the odd person relocating from London to Brighton or something like that, it's now happening en masse. You're getting lots of people moving in the same direction. So it's not just the south coast, it's areas in the countryside, it's anywhere that's essentially incommutable distance to London, but you don't, because of people now, a lot of people work from home and the way businesses have changed, they don't need to be in London and they can make a lifestyle change. So we've had this huge once in a lifetime shift. And I say once in a lifetime because you won't probably for the next, however long the future, have this mass of change of location, which we're now seeing, which is why London is dropping in terms of rental values and why other areas are benefiting from that outside of London. The pent-up demand, obviously, during the period of lockdown, people were putting off their search a bit. Some people were still trying to move remotely. We'll talk about a little bit later on. But actually, most people, it was pent-up demand. They wanted to move, but they didn't feel they could move. And obviously the country was in lockdown, both in the property industry and also elsewhere in the economy. So people couldn't really move. And so that pent-up demand sat there for a sustained period of time, which then resulted in that booming demand coming forward after that period. And of course, there's still lots of people unable to buy. Buying is expensive. Banks are not really considering anything under 15% as a deposit. For first-time buyers, that's a lot of money to come up with, unless they've got help from parents, etc. Then it's a difficult amount to save. And even people that are more established, it's a difficult amount to save. So we still got a large percentage of people in different areas that can't simply afford to buy, and it's becoming harder and harder in that respect. So they rent, and of course, with the fact that people are moving from out of town and areas they're not used to, they will probably try before they buy, as it were. So they will rent for a period of time, usually 6 months to a year, to find out if they actually like the area or not, and then they'll consider buying. So we've had all of these things come together at the same time to create demand across other parts of the UK outside of the London market. So I just want to share with you a little bit of local area information, just areas that are close to our heart, really. So this is off the back of some Google search data that we've done through to present day. So you'll see that online searches for flats to rent in Worthing are actually at a 2-year high. So you can see the fairly consistent data there and the lines, and then suddenly the upshot of demand that's come forward for flats to rent in Worthing. There have been 2,400 searches in the last month alone in the Worthing location. So obviously Worthing is a popular area for buy-to-let investors. And if you're considering buying a buy-to-let investment, you can see the demand is there, it's strong, and it's there to stay. Goring, which is not too far away, as we know, just west of Worthing. Searches again are a 2-year high. There's 30 searches a month for flats to rent in Goring. So, you know, a big upshot. And excluding all months since the onset of the coronavirus, searches for flats to rent in Goring have seen a 50% increase year on year. So a massive increase where, again, people are relocating to different areas. And Goring's on the radar. You know, it's slightly less populated than Worthing Town Centre, and still very close to the beach and the downs, etc. Then we take a look at Findon. So Findon is a very unusual looking graph, but Findon has had a real upsurge again in popularity, particularly with houses to rent, which grew from 50% in demand from 2017 to 2020. It's a really popular area for houses in Findon. Again, you know, from an investment point of view, if you're considering buying in the Findon location, then you can see on there that a flat would be a good, the house, sorry, would be a good investment in that location. A flat obviously is also increased in popularity, but houses particularly popular. People searching in Lancing, so for flats to rent in Lancing, it's gone up 5% above average for this year. So a real popular area at the moment, Lancing. And excluding all months since the onset of coronavirus, searches for flats to rent in Lancing have seen a 50% increase year on year. People searching for houses to rent in Lancing is currently 85% above average for the year. So a massive increase in Lancing. So, you know, it's an area with a main line. It takes you through to London Victoria. It's, you know, it's a really convenient place. It's got a nice beach. It's got open spaces. Again, very popular and getting loads and loads of interest from people now, and is a little bit cheaper than Worthing and Goring and those sort of areas. So, you know, people getting a little bit more for their money, which makes it very popular. Then we have Rustington. It's another area of ours which we're, you know, very close to. It's got a 50% rise above average for the year for flats to rent in that location, and a 28% increase year on year of demand. Searches for housing and renting 20% higher on average than this time last year. So again, a really big drive in that location. So the growth of the virtual world, I mean, it's been a huge part of the market and something really to consider. So you're talking about buy-to-let investment, how to get the best price, how to stand out online. Well, this is it. It's extremely important now when you're considering bringing your property to the market, that wherever you are in the UK, that you are embracing the virtual world. And this graph is a clear example of that. So the term virtual property viewing is previously largely redundant. So if you look at the line from August 2019 to February 2020, it's virtually non-existent. Most people didn't search for virtual property viewing. It just wasn't required. People were going out, they were viewing property physically. It was part of our DNA, if you like, in the property market, that people would do physical viewings. And suddenly the coronavirus pandemic hit, and there was a huge spike in virtual property viewing. So people still wanted to see property, but weren't able to unless they could do this. And then even though it's come down, as you can see, it's still remaining largely well above where it was pre-COVID. So we believe, as most of the industry does now, this is the norm. And, you know, there are stats to back up now that, you know, there's an increase of 67% of properties with virtual tours, but also the increase in viewings of virtual tours are up by 80%. So it's a huge thing. And we as a company, we've embraced the virtual world significantly. So all our properties now have virtual tours, and we've had 35,000 unique visitors to our spaces, 35,000 unique visitors to our virtual tours since launching them. So it's massive, and people are coming in, and it's creating a fantastic marketplace, because basically what people are doing is they're seeing these properties first, and they're basically self-qualifying whether it's the right property for them. By the time the viewing takes place, what it's doing is allowing our landlords to have maximum interest, which gets them the best price. So think about that with your buy-to-let investment. It needs to be obviously well presented. It needs to be, both inside and outside, and a virtual tour would be the way forward now, I think, with the market. I think it's essential. I'm just going to share with you now an example of a virtual tour, in case you haven't seen one before, to give you an idea now of what's available on the marketplace. So this is a property that we had on the market, on lettings in Howard Street. And basically the clients were blown away by this. Actually, it came on the market. We did the virtual tour. We released it. We had so much interest in this particular property that we ended up doing an open house, but we pre-qualified 15 people, 15 different sets of people to come and view it. Everyone offered. We got a fantastic price for the client, well above the asking price. And this will link in later to what the most demanded type of property is when we talk about buy-to-let investments, because this is a house. This is the most popular type of property at the moment on the lettings market. Now, with a virtual tour, it allows you to have a little scroll around in a doll's house view. And if you want to basically have a look at any particular room, you can just walk your way around it, and you can see it exactly for what it is. Nothing hidden away. Which gives you a really good perception of the size of the property. It's just like walking through it yourself. Everything's at the right eye level. It's just like having a physical viewing. And we use these now for all properties, so people can scroll in and out of the property and have a look at the sort of condition property's in. Now, this particular house gives you an idea of the type of condition now that properties are coming to the lettings market in, and it's a very interesting point, because there's a lot more. The standard of property now in letting is increasing all the time. So if you're thinking about what makes a good buy-to-let investment, well, certainly the quality now, particularly with the caliber of applicant I mentioned earlier that's now coming forward, the increase in average income, etc. People coming from London expecting a higher standard of property. Well, this is a very good example of the type of property that's very, very popular in the lettings market. It just gives you a little flavour of how a virtual tour now works. So that just gives you everything. If you're an applicant now, having a look at that property online, you could quite comfortably make a decision that was the right property for you. As long as the location fitted, you can see exactly what you're going to get, and that's the thing. So I think now, from a buy-to-let investor perspective, the virtual tours are absolutely crucial now to get the best price, to get the best quality applicant. So think about that when you're buying the property. Think about the marketing ahead as well, how it's going to present online, with the fact that more and more people are doing virtual viewings now, with that 80% increase in applicants looking online. So just looking at how you get your properties stand out online. Well, here's some Rightmove data for you. So this is Rightmove's data of the 10 property must-haves. This is to do with the top keywords that are typed in when people search for property on Rightmove. Number one, you can see that is a garage. So clearly, most of the time, there are some exceptions. A garage comes with a house as opposed to a flat. You do get some flats with a garage. So people are valuing a garage as one of the most important things at the moment with their search. So if I was looking at the moment for a property to buy that I was going to rent out, then if it had a garage, I know that straight away that will be a really, really beneficial thing to have with what people are searching for. Now, weirdly, number 2 is a pool. We don't expect that you're going to go out and buy an investment with a pool. We put that down to both pool and swimming pool. We put that down to when people are in lockdown and they're searching from home and basically just looking at aspirational properties. There are obviously some people that will genuinely want a pool when they've got good budgets. And again, that would be relating more to house purchases really, but on a rental perspective, not so relevant. But garage and garden in particular is a very important one as well. So that's climbed from position 5 to 3 during lockdown. And that just shows the importance now of the outside space, shows the importance of having a house, which is garage, sort of cottage in there, or a balcony is also in there, sea view, rural, land. So this is what people are saying, is what applicants are saying when they're searching. They are communicating that what's important for us at the moment, during this pandemic, during the back of lockdown, is I want ideally a house. If I have a flat, I'd like a balcony, so I'd like some outside space. I'd like to feel like I've got somewhere to walk around in. I would like some land nearby. I'd like it to be rural or semi-rural. Ideally, I'd like a sea view, that feeling of space that you get from having a sea view. I'd like a garden. I'd like a garage so I can spread out and then put more stuff into. So when thinking about your purchase, think about these points. These are really, really important because this is what the majority of the market are saying. And Rightmove is a big player when it comes to the data from the marketplace. So really, really important. And that's, you can clearly see what would make a good buy-to-let investment. So in summary, the growth of the market since COVID, we've seen that it's growing and continuing to sustain. So it's a really positive marketplace at the moment, and we see that continuing for the foreseeable future. There's no sign of it slowing down. So a great time to buy a property to rent out. The local area statistics we just shared with you around the South Coast, around the Worthing location, how much demand has gone up. But that will be the same if you're sitting there at the moment thinking, I don't care about Worthing or those locations. I want to know about Brighton, or I want to know about somewhere else in the UK. Aside from London and Edinburgh, the rest of the UK is performing strongly, as we saw from that 1.4% growth. So your local area statistics will look very, very similar in locations, as long as they have the benefits we discussed, which is land, outside space, sea, or whatever it may be, that appeals to people now. The growth of the virtual world, so just making sure that you are utilizing that now with your buy-to-let investment. So stand out from the crowd, bring it to the market with virtual tour. They're absolutely essential now. Technology's there, so utilize it. And how to get your property to stand out online, using those points, and just referring to those points again. If you are on the market, just going back to these particular points here, if you are on the market already with an agent, your agent, if they're on Rightmove, can set these parameters on the premium listing, or they can put them in capitals on your description so that they stand out. And that's the key, is to make sure that they stand out from the crowd, and you'll get the best return essentially on your investment. Okay, so on to the live Q&A section now. Just going to grab some water. See if there's any come in. I have got some pre-arranged ones, as say, from other clients that have sent them to me in advance that are going to tune in at a later date. So the first one they asked is what have you found is the most demanded property? Well, similar to the one that I just showed you around on the virtual tour, at the moment, houses that are between £1,100 and £1,400 are flying off the shelf around our location. So houses with outside space, like we mentioned from the keyword searches on Rightmove and the data that's there, are really, really popular. Small flats are still popular as well, but as it says on the data, if there is a little bit outside space, they're even more popular. But ultimately, it's still the same things apply if it's centrally located, near a train station, near the beach, has a sea view. All those things will appeal to make it work. But what's really important now is we're finding that it's about condition as well now. So the condition of the property needs to reflect now where the quality of the applicants are. So I think, if you can get, if you were buying an investment right now and you could pick up a small house, 2 or 3 bedroom, it would rent extremely quickly and get a lot of demand. The other question I had from a client was the most noticeable change we found. I think, again, just going back to the virtual world, really. So the fact now that we send our virtual tours to every single applicant that registers, and they make a decision before viewing if it's the right property for them. And then once they go out, we're in a position where we have a better conversion, I suppose, from those applicants, is a massive shift, because before, as you saw from the data, pre-lockdown, that market didn't really exist. So although the technology was there, the market didn't exist. Someone else has said, why has London dropped, as part of the pre-arranged questions I had? Quite simply, there's a mass exodus of people coming out of London to relocate outside of London to different areas because of the reasons we spoke about. So again, although London is still a strong rental market, and I'm an ex-London agent, I was there for nearly 20 years. It's a market that can go up and down pretty quickly, and at the moment they're seeing a once in a lifetime shift, as I said, from a larger percentage of people looking to move away from the city because they don't need to work there anymore. Because there's a lot of people working from home, they can change their mindset on that. I've got a Q&A here. So, okay, can I comment on the profile of rent default in Worthing since the state of the pandemic? So I'm going to answer that question. So I am assuming that we're talking about how much is in default, so how many people are in default in Worthing in general. We had a lower than average, lower than national average. I can't say the actual percentage, but we had a lower than national average percentage of rent default. And actually what we found, which is really refreshing, again, I can't comment for other agents, but I would imagine that because we are, we hold such a large percentage of our market in Worthing, what happens with us probably does happen with other agents. We were very well prepared and came up with a really good plan with most of our people. And what we found that actually, reassuringly, that most applicants were, if they were or tenants, if they were getting into issues, they were really forthcoming about it, which is really refreshing. So we weren't chasing them. They were coming to us and they were giving us their information and coming up with a payment plan. And what's great is, although we still do have some rent arrears in the portfolio, we've got predominantly everyone on a payment plan. So that's slowly but surely coming down to a point now where we are back to normal levels that you'd expect from a portfolio of our size. And speaking to other agents in the area, they're finding the same thing, really. So I think the reality is that rent defaults are relatively low, if not to standard of the national average. Certainly not on the high side that we've experienced so far. Does anyone else have any other questions at all? Okay, so I don't think we've got any other questions. So if there's anything that anyone else wants to ask afterwards, my email address, so it's markhowell@michaeljones.co.uk. Please feel free to ask me any questions you've got. It could be anything to do with investment advice. It doesn't have to be in Worthing, it could be anywhere in the UK. Absolutely fine to help out as much as I can. Or any questions regarding any legislative stuff that you want to know, please come to me outside this Q&A and we'll chat through it further. Thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you found that informative. As I say, we try to use more of a data approach rather than just what we think and telling the obvious stuff. But if there's anything else that you want to know, please do get in touch. Many thanks for listening.